Good morning everyone. We were studying life processes for standard 10. Today we will discuss the plant respiration, the difference between plant respiration and animal respiration. But before that, let us do a very quick revision of what we studied in the last class. In the last class, we were studying about mechanism of breathing, where we saw how the muscles associated with rib cage and the diaphragm, they help in inspiration and expiration. When the muscles of radial muscles and the intercostal muscles, they contract, the volume of the lung increases, because of which the pressure of the lung decreases and air from outside enters into the lungs. So this was how air was coming inside the lung. So after mechanism, we also studied the transport of the two gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide, how hemoglobin helps in transport of oxygen to our body parts, and most of the carbon dioxide is dissolved in plasma and is transported to the different parts of the, or taken from different parts of the body and taken to the lungs. So this is what we studied in the last class. Today we are going to study plant respiration. As you know, respiration is one of the requirements for all the living organisms to exist, because this produces energy. But as most of the cells and tissues in plant are dead, plant require very little amount of energy. And what is very special about it? No specific organ is present in plant for respiration. There is no specific organ. And then how will the diffusion take place? It takes place by the external body surface of the plant by diffusion. Stomata also helps in exchange of gases. Stomata is present on the leaf epidermis. This also helps in exchange of gases. Now, what happens, as you know, you have already studied, O2 is taken in during respiration and CO2 is given out during respiration. So, O2 is taken in and CO2 is given out after complete respiration takes place. But in case of plant, whatever CO2 is produced in the daytime, that is utilized by the plant, for the process of photosynthesis, because you know plant photosynthesis requires CO2 and water for the process to continue. So whatever CO2 is given out during daytime is again utilized by the plant for the process of photosynthesis. So no CO2 is released during day. Respiration is taking place, right? But no CO2 is released during day. Why is it not released? Because CO2 that is produced during respiration is utilized by the plant itself for the process of photosynthesis. So what will happen during night? During night, because photosynthesis is not taking place, or dark reaction of photosynthesis is taking place, the CO2 that is produced is released into the atmosphere. That is why it is advised not to sleep under a tree during night, because CO2 is released into the atmosphere during night. So advised not to sleep. Why not to sleep under a tree? Because large amount of CO2 will be released. So plants do not have any specific organ, but respiration takes place in plants both during the day and during the night, and the process through air enters into the plant or CO2 comes out of the plant is simple diffusion. According to the requirement of the plant, the diffusion will take place. Stomata also helps in exchange of gases. The O2 that is taken during daytime is converted into CO2 during respiration, but that CO2 is again utilized by the plant for the process of photosynthesis. So no CO2 is released during the day, but during night CO2 is released into the atmosphere, and that is why it is advised not to sleep under a tree during night. So this was all about plant respiration. Now, what is difference between plant and animal respiration? Remember, both of them take place throughout the day, that is during day also and during night also. But in case of plant, what happens in case of plant? No specific organ is there. Then how does it take place? It takes place by diffusion. We have specific organs in case of animals. We take in air through our nose, that passes through the nasal chamber, goes to pharynx, larynx, then reaches the trachea. From trachea it is divided into two bronchus, going to two different lungs. Bronchus is further subdivided into bronchioles, and the end part, which is highly coiled structure, is known as alveoli, and exchange of gases takes place at this level. Exchange of gases takes place at alveolar level. So alveoli will provide oxygen to the blood and take in carbon dioxide, which will be released into the atmosphere. As most of the cells are dead in plants, the amount of energy that is required for plants is comparatively less. So less energy is produced because they need less energy. More energy is produced compared to plant because we require more energy as we move from one place to the other. So what can be the other difference? In case of plant, CO2 is not released during day. CO2 is not released during day. Why is it not released? Because it is utilized for photosynthesis. It is released only during night. But in case of animals, CO2 is released both during day and night. So these are some of the differences between plant respiration and animal respiration. Let us see what happens in terrestrial and aquatic respiration in case of animals. As you know, terrestrial means it is taking place on the land. So terrestrial respiration is taking place in those animals which live on land, and aquatic respiration takes place in those animals which live in water. And terrestrial animals will take the oxygen from the atmosphere. So they take oxygen from the air. How will the aquatic organism take oxygen? They take oxygen which is dissolved in water. The organ of respiration in case of terrestrial respiration is lung. Organ of respiration is lungs. Example is human being. Organ of respiration is gills. Example is fishes. The third one is less amount of oxygen is present in air, whereas more amount of oxygen is less amount of oxygen is present in water, whereas more amount of oxygen is present on land in the atmosphere. So what happens? The rate of respiration, because of this, rate of respiration is low in these animals, in terrestrial animals, whereas rate of respiration is high in aquatic animals. A very common question that is asked here is, why do fishes respire more compared to a bird or a animal like cat or dog? So why is it? Because large amount of oxygen is present in the atmosphere compared to the oxygen that is dissolved in water, which is very low. So oxygen dissolved in water is low, so rate of respiration is high in aquatic animal. So you have to remember this also. Oxygen dissolved in water is low compared to oxygen present in atmospheric air. So these are few differences in case of terrestrial organisms and aquatic organisms in terms of respiration. They take oxygen from air, and the aquatic organism takes oxygen which is dissolved in water. Organ of respiration in case of terrestrial animals is lungs, whereas organ of respiration is gills in case of aquatic animals. Rate of respiration in low in terrestrial animals, whereas rate of respiration is high in aquatic animals. And why is this rate of respiration high or low? Because oxygen dissolved in water is very low compared to oxygen present in the atmospheric air. So this is all about difference between terrestrial and aquatic animals having respiration. So this is all for today. Do subscribe the channel and don't forget to click on the bell icon to get the notification whenever a new video is released. If you like the video, do share it with your friends. Thank you for watching.